song to the Lord, for he has worked wonders. His right hand and his holy arm have brought salvation. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God. The Lord has made known his salvation, has shown his justice to the nations. He has remembered his truth and love for the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God. Shout to the Lord, all the earth, ring out your joy. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God. Sing psalms to the Lord with the harp, with the sound of music, with trumpets and the sound of the horn. Acclaim the King, the Lord. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God.
A reading from the letter to the Hebrews. At various times in the past, and in various different ways, God spoke to our ancestors through the prophets. But in our own time, the last appointed to inherit everything, and through him he made everything there is. He is the radiant light of God's glory and the perfect copy of his nature, sustaining the universe by his powerful command. And now that he has destroyed the defilement of sin, he has gone to take his place in heaven at the right hand of divine majesty. So he is now as far above the angels as the title which he has inherited is higher than his own name. God has never said to any angel, "You are my son. Today I have become your father." Or, "I will be a father to him, and he a son to me." Again, when he brings the firstborn into the world, he says, "Let all the angels of God worship him." The word of the Lord.
Day has dawned upon us. Come, you nations, worship the Lord, for today a great light has shone down upon the earth. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things came to be. Not one thing had its being but through him. All that came to be had life in him, and that life was the light of all people, a light that shines in the dark, a light that darkness could not overpower. The Word was the true light that enlightens all people, and he was coming into the world. He was in the world that had its being through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own domain, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who did accept him, he gave power to become children of God, to all who believe in the name of him who was born not of human stock, or urge of the flesh, or will of man, but of God himself. The Word was made flesh, he lived among us, and he saw his glory, the glory that is his, as the only Son of the Father, full of grace and full of truth. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus.
So good morning, everybody, and a happy Christmas to you all, and to acknowledge all those watching in on the internet at home, wherever you are. Happy Christmas, and it's great to have you here with us in Clonard on a very cold morning here in Belfast. My sister had a baby 4 months ago. He's called Luke, and I'm the godfather. And to be honest with you, my sister wasn't planning on having me as the godfather at all. She wanted somebody else. But I volunteered myself. Did you ever volunteer yourself to be godfather for a baby? I volunteered myself. I says, you know, I'm single. I don't have any children, so please pick me. And she picked me. I got the job. And there's one thing I've noticed in my 4 months as godfather, and that is adults behave quite irrationally around babies. Have you ever noticed that? We behave quite irrationally around babies. We talk a different language, don't we? We talk a different language. We make funny faces to the baby. We might even sing the strangest of songs, or even dance a jig in front of the child. And then what do? Well, we watch and we wait for these monumental events to happen in the baby's life. Firstly, the baby's first smile. Secondly, the moment when the baby moves from 6-ounce bottles to 7-ounce bottles. Isn't that right? A substantial moment in the growth and development of the baby. And then when the baby takes their first spoonful of rice, or when he grows out of one set of clothing and he moves on to another. And at the age of 3.5 months, a baby is often brought to a nurse for a developmental test. And all the nurse really cares about is to make sure that the baby's sight and the baby's hearing is good. But there's a coordination test that's done around 3.5 to 4 months as well. And the coordination test is very simple. The nurse wants to find out if the baby can touch his fingers, just like that. Maybe even interlock them, okay? So it's a very simple test to do with the baby. And it signifies that the baby's coordination is good. So in my household at home, we were very conscious that this test was coming up. And my dad and my brother and myself were quite competitive. We're competitive people. We like to win. And we wanted the baby to pass the test. So one day, we spent a full hour trying to teach the baby how to touch his hands, just like that. A full hour, I'm kidding you not. And at one stage, the 3 of us were staring into the child's pram, just doing these hand movements to try and get the baby to do the same. What an exceptional moment it was when the baby eventually got what we were doing. We were delighted. In many ways, we were hysterical. And I turned to God and I said, thank you, the baby is developmentally okay. Now, That's what I mean about irrational behaviour around a baby. Let me move to the second element. There's something else that happens to us when we have a baby and when we see a baby, and it's this. The vulnerability and the weakness of the baby reminds us of our own vulnerability and our own weakness. We don't want a baby to be hungry because we don't like to be hungry ourselves. We want a baby to feel safe and warm and secure. Why? Because we don't like feeling insecure and cold ourselves. So we look after a baby like it's the most important thing in the world. In many ways, and this is very important now, we become drawn into the weaknesses of the baby. We're drawn in by the vulnerability that the baby shows. So what do? Well, we hold the baby carefully so his head is protected. We clothe the baby so it doesn't feel cold. We make sure there are enough bottles prepared for feeds throughout the day so the baby doesn't go hungry. We're always thinking, we're always planning, so the baby is never in need. In many ways, what the baby actually does, although it's a very small size, the baby has a power to disarm us, disarm every single person here today. You could be the most selfish person in the world. You could be the Scrooge of Christmas. But I place a baby into your arms and you melt like the summer snow. That's the power of a baby. The baby reminds us of our own weaknesses, our own fears, but above all, our own need for love and care and protection. So keeping this in mind, keeping this wonderful image of the baby in mind, have you ever noticed what happens to us at Christmas time when we look at the baby Jesus in the crib over here in the corner? Now, we don't necessarily become irrational like my dad and my brother and myself. When we look at the baby Jesus in the crib, we're reminded of our own weaknesses and our own vulnerability. Because the weakness of the child Jesus reminds us of our own fears, our own need for love and care and protection. Jesus and his family are very much alone and they're very much isolated in the crib. So therefore, we're reminded of the times we're lonely and alone in the world. Just observe the things we do at Christmas time. We reconnect with family and friends by sending Christmas cards, Facebook messages and texts. We make that extra effort to spend time with aging relatives. We even smile at strangers. I noticed this over the past number of days in Belfast City. There's a cranky woman who works in a shop, in a particular shop down in town. I won't give you the name of the shop. But last Saturday morning, she smiled at me and she wished me a happy Christmas. I've been looking at her now for the past couple of years. It's the first time she smiled and it's the first time she wished me a happy Christmas. And I walked out of the shop and I said, that's baby Jesus. He makes us better people and he makes us kinder people. Because the baby Jesus does something to us. I can't say for certainty what he actually does for each one of you, but you know yourself that at this time of year you become a different person. And it's down to one single event, Jesus coming into the world. So I'm going to leave you this morning with one very simple suggestion. Leave your crib up in your house all year round. I don't care where you put it. Could be on top of the television or the mantelpiece. But don't take your crib down this year. I really don't understand why we decide to place a crib into a cardboard box and we pull it out again 11 months later. We put the baby Jesus out of sight and out of mind. Well, let me tell you, the crib is not a Christmas decoration. Leave your crib up this year. Allow Jesus to disarm you like a baby disarms you. Allow him to help you with your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities throughout the coming year. Because the crib is that gentle reminder that we're never alone and we can always be better and kinder people. We stand as we profess our faith in God.
And the profession of faith is found on page